Hey Hero fans, this is Todd. So today I have a PowerCon Stratos, and the wings on this Stratos are super floppy, as you guys know that have them, and the wings just kind of flap around. So I went and got a 2-pack Stratos, the one that's Merman and Stratos, and he has the blue wings that look the exact same color as the PowerCon one. So I'm going to get rid of these floppy wings that are on this Stratos and replace them with the new wings from this Stratos. Now I've already heated the Stratos up, caught his hands off, and took the wings off, and you can see they're blue, and there's his hands right there. And I could just leave them blue, which I'm thinking about doing, or I could paint them gold to match the PowerCon Stratos. I think I'm going to go ahead and paint him gold. So let's put this guy in some hot water first, so we can take off his wings and his hands. And while he's heating up and getting ready, we'll paint these gold and prepare them and get them all ready to go. So the best way to put him in hot water is first put his arms together over his hand, have a cup of water that was boiling at one point. And then once you get them adjusted, stick them in there for a few minutes, and then it will soften up the plastic enough so to pull the hands off and eventually take the wings off. So let's go ahead and paint the wings gold. So all I want to do is just paint the arm cuffs. 2 ways to do this. One, I can actually take the paint pen and just paint it directly on there, but you don't have a lot of control that way. I'd rather use this cup and put the paint in the cup and then use a paintbrush so I have better control over where the paint goes and how much paint goes on it. The best way to do it is first shake it up as you saw and then put a bunch in the cup at the tip. I actually like these paint markers a lot. They're a very convenient way to get paint, and you can paint so easily with them, and it's just a great way to store. All right, now I know this particular paint is not water soluble, so as I apply this, I have to be very careful because wherever I apply it, it's not going to come off later. So I have to be very careful to apply it just to the areas I want it. Now, obviously, I want it on the cuff all the way around, so it matches the PowerCon figure. But you're also going to want to make sure you paint the front of the cuff and the back of the cuff. And none of the paint, you don't want any of the paint on the inside of the cuff, because that might interfere with the articulation later on, and it may not spin. It may actually stick and pull instead of spinning. So you'll notice as I'm applying this, you want to put on a lot of thin coats really quickly. This paint does dry pretty fast. And as it dries, it gets really sticky and starts to pile up, and you lose the detail into the parts you're painting. So make sure you do it quickly, lots of thin coats very fast, and then make sure, again, no paint on the inside as you do this. Now you can see with the brush, you have a lot more control, and that was the plan, is to make sure you have good control as you're brushing this on. Make sure each brush stroke is intentional to exactly where you want to place the paint. You don't want to be haphazard with just putting this paint onto the again. It's not water soluble. It's not going to wash off very easily. In fact, this is probably this paintbrush's last time, because I know this paint is really hard to clean out of there. All right, on to the next wing. And again, same procedure. Lots of thin coats, light strokes. Be intentional where you put it. And make sure you don't get any paint on the inside where the wrist is going to make contact with the actual ring cup. All right, so as I'm painting this, I'm thinking, do I want to clear coat this or not? Now, there's a couple ways to clear coat it. One way I could clear coat it is with a matte finish that I actually like how the matte finish looks most of the time. But a matte finish is going to take the gold shine away from this paint. Or I could use a very high gloss finish, which will keep the gold finish. But sometimes a high gloss paint will leave whatever part you're working on sticky. So I'm kind of debating right now as I'm painting this. I think I might go with the matte finish. The original wings were not really that shiny to begin with, so I think it's going to work good. Do make sure whenever you use any kind of a clear coat or finish, you want to always cover the original parts that you don't want covered in some kind of masking. Because again, once that paint touches that original plastic, it'll become a little sticky. Just keep reapplying paint as you need to. Again, as paint does dry very quickly on the paint markers. So make sure you get those coats on there as fast as we can and make sure that it's accurate. All right. Let's keep working it around. Get every little detail. Make sure you don't have any spots. A lot of times when you pull the brush across the bumps on the wrist cuffs, you'll notice the back side will be bare because the bristles kind of flare out across the bump. So make sure you go back and check those little details. You only get one shot at this. You don't want to go back and retouch. All right, let's see how this figure's doing. He's been in there quite a while. The parts come off really easily. I can just pull those wings right off down the hands. Now he's ready to get his new wings once the paint is dry. But I'm going to first head down and I want to center coat these because, again, I don't think it needs to be that shiny. I'm going to use a matte clear coat. All right, I went ahead and clear coated them, and I waited for it to dry, and here they are. You can see the blue painter's tape I put on there to protect the plastic from getting the clear coat on there. The blue painter's tape works great, has a lower adhesion, so when you pull it off, it doesn't stick to the whatever parts that you may have had already painted in the past from the factory already painted. You also don't want to use any tape that will have a lot of residue, because that residue is going to cause problems later on. So again, blue painter's tape works good for this. You can also use the green painter's tape. And so these wings are ready. Now, one thing I did notice is that the actual cuffs themselves are a little different. The ring cuff on the older ones actually had an indent to fit around the wrist. You can see on that figure on the side. But on this one, you can see that the new ones are thinner, the old ones. So I'm going to heat this up to put it on there and make it fit. Make sure you get the right one at the right side and the left one at the left side. I don't want to use the hot water this time, because if you put a part you just painted in hot water, that's going to cause some issues. The paint gets really sticky very quickly and could cause the issues. So I have this heat gun here. This heat gun is awesome. It's actually a heat gun that has 2 settings, high and low, and it's a Wagner gun. I do suggest we have the heat gun. This is a great one to get. If you can't afford a heat gun, just grab a hairdryer. A hairdryer works good too for this. It does take a lot longer in order to heat the part up enough to stretch to bit on, but these heat guns work really well. You should be able to have your hands in front of it. If it gets too hot on your hands, it's too hot for the plastic. If it's too hot for you, then you have too much heat applied to the wing. Make sure you keep it just warm enough to be pliable, but not too hot to melt. Also, make sure you have some kind of a place to put your heat gun when it's done. I have this little cork pad I use. It works great. You always want to think safety. You don't want to put your heat gun when it's hot somewhere. Now that the wing has been heated up, it just slides on the wrist, and you see how that kind of fits on there. Now, the wing is flared a little more than I want. I am going to heat it up again later and push that wing back into place. And because it's a harder plastic, it will stay once it's done. Now, I'm going to heat up the center part where the hand goes. And when you heat this up, you want to make sure the forearm gets warm as well, so that part will pop in. You got to make sure not to heat the hand itself. You want the pin to be solid as you push it into the forearm. It does need to take a little bit of pressure, a little bit of work to get it in there. Just make sure that you're hanging onto the arm at the right angle so you don't break the arm when you do this. All right, so there we go. We want to make sure also that wing does spin freely. You want to check it right away before it gets too cool. If it happens to shrink on that wrist the wrong angle, it will cause issues with it later on spinning. So you got to make sure we have a chance to rotate that wing. All right, this other wing's just about warm. Let's go ahead and put it on there and see how it fits. But again, always put your heat gun on your cork pad. Now this wing actually fits better. It fits a lot tighter to the arm. Let's go ahead and heat up the forearm and put in the next arm, the next hand. And again, don't heat the hand, just the forearm. In the past, I've had problems not knowing that trick, and I used to heat up both pieces. And what happens is then the hand won't go into the hole because it's too flimsy and flexible. And then you're stuck having to try to cool the hand down in order to be stiff enough to pop into the hole. All right, let's heat that wing up so you can get it to stay in place the way we want. I'm just going to heat it up right where the hinge part is supposed to be to the scope. And again, because this is harder plastic, once it cools, it will stay in place. So that's the cool part about it. It's not like those flimsy wings that we're replacing. All right. Just kind of hold it in place a little bit. Make sure it's straight. I'm going to actually lift the arm so gravity can help us keep us in place while it cools. These figures are nice that you have like when you go to move the joints, they click in place. That's a really cool feature, but sometimes to try to do something like this, sometimes it gets in the way of trying to manipulate the figure where you want it. So we can see now the wings actually push it a lot nicer toward the arm. Make sure they still rotate around. And there we have it. Now we have our new Stratos.
So here is the before and after. So this is the after right here. Now it has been completed and done, and the wings are a little more sturdy, not quite so flexible. The gold looks pretty good, not spectacular, doesn't match his belt, unfortunately. And then here's the before, and you can see these are the flopsy mopsy ones. And but here the gold does match the belt. So yeah, I probably could have done better picking out my gold paint. But anyway, here they are side by side. I don't think it's too shabby. I actually like the stiffer wings better, but at least this way I can, you know, kind of decide which way I want to go, whether I want the flopsy mopsy or the regular. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next video, and good journey. Good journey! Bye now.
If you found enjoyment, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Do it!